The Grand Council chamber of Zentari Prime buzzed with anticipation as representatives from 17 different species gathered to witness what they believed would be a humiliating demonstration. The humans, those upstart newcomers to the galactic community, had accepted the challenge issued by the Vex Collective, a species renowned across 3 spiral arms for their unmatched strategic prowess. Mia Chen adjusted her collar as she walked into the arena, her boots clicking against the crystalline floor. Beside her, Jackson Rodriguez carried a simple metal case, his expression calm despite the thousands of eyes and other sensory organs fixed upon them. They were the only 2 humans in a sea of aliens, and the weight of their species' reputation rested squarely on their shoulders. "Think they know what they're in for?" Jackson whispered, a slight smirk playing at his lips. "Not even close," Mia replied, her dark eyes scanning the crowd. The Vex Prime strategist, Keller 9, stood at the opposite end of the playing field. His crystalline body refracted light in patterns that signified confidence bordering on arrogance. The Vex had dominated the strategic concordance games for 3 centuries, their hive-mind intelligence allowing them to process millions of scenarios simultaneously. Ambassador Threll of the Arquinian delegation stepped forward, his tentacles undulating with barely concealed amusement. "Let the terms be clear. The humans have chosen to play Void's Gambit, a game of resource management, tactical warfare, and long-term strategic planning. The match will be observed by all member species and recorded for posterity." What Threll didn't say, but everyone knew, was that this was meant to put humanity in its place. The galactic community had grown weary of human unpredictability, their strange emotional decision-making, and their baffling tendency to succeed despite violating every known strategic principle. The game board materialized between them, a holographic representation of a star cluster with planets, asteroid fields, and trade routes. Each player would build an empire from a single colony, competing for dominance over a simulated 1,000-year period compressed into 6 hours of real-time gameplay. Keller 9's crystalline form pulsed with violet light. "We shall demonstrate why emotion is a weakness, why individual thought is inferior to collective intelligence." Jackson set down his case and opened it, revealing 2 steaming thermoses. He poured coffee into 2 cups and handed one to Mia. "To emotion and bad decisions," he toasted quietly. The game began. The Vex moved with mechanical precision, their strategy a textbook example of optimal expansion. They identified resource-rich systems, calculated perfect trade ratios, and established defensive positions with mathematical efficiency. Observers nodded approvingly as Keller 9 executed a flawless opening that had been analyzed and perfected over centuries. Mia and Jackson, however, did something unexpected. They argued. "We should secure the mining colonies first," Jackson insisted, pointing to a cluster of asteroid fields. "No, we need agricultural worlds. You can't eat titanium," Mia countered, her finger hovering over a garden planet. The audience watched in confusion as the 2 humans bickered over seemingly basic decisions. Ambassador Threll leaned toward his aide. "Are they disagreeing? During a synchronized strategy game?" What the observers didn't understand was that every argument, every heated debate, was deliberate. Where the Vex saw a single optimal path, Mia and Jackson explored dozens. They didn't just calculate, they imagined. They didn't just optimize, they improvised. 3 hours into the game, the tide began to turn. The Vex had built a perfect empire, balanced and efficient. But when a random event triggered, a plague on agricultural worlds, their carefully calculated system began to crumble. They had optimized for efficiency, not resilience. Mia's insistence on redundant food supplies suddenly made sense. Jackson's wasteful investment in medical research paid off as their colonies weathered the storm. But more importantly, they had done something the Vex never considered. They had built a narrative. Each of their colonies had a story. The mining station at Beta 7 wasn't just a resource node. It was settled by desperate refugees from their overcrowded homeworld. The trade outpost at the Crimson Nebula wasn't just economically positioned, it was a cultural exchange center that built loyalty among NPC factions. When the game's AI arbitrated disputes and determined factional allegiances, it favored the Empire with history, with meaning, with story. The humans had gamified the game itself, understanding that even artificial intelligence responded to narrative coherence. Kelor 9's form flickered with confused colors. This is illogical. Your resource allocation is suboptimal. Your military positioning violates 3 fundamental strategic principles. Yeah, Jackson agreed cheerfully, moving a fleet into what appeared to be a suicide position. But it's making your life difficult, isn't it? The final hours were chaos, beautiful, unpredictable chaos. Mia and Jackson didn't just play against the Vex. They played against the game itself, finding exploits not through calculation but through creative thinking. They negotiated with AI factions using appeals to emotion. They sacrificed short-term gains for long-term stories. They made mistakes that forced the Vex to recalculate their entire strategy. When the simulation ended, the results were undeniable. The human empire had achieved dominance not through optimal play, but through adaptive, creative, and fundamentally unpredictable decision-making. The chamber fell silent. Ambassador Threll was the first to speak. I believe we have witnessed something unprecedented. Kelor 9's crystalline body had dimmed to a confused gray. We must analyze this. Your victory it should not have been possible. Mia smiled and extended her hand. That's kind of our thing. 3 years later, the match became required study material in every military academy across the galactic community. The game wasn't taught as a lesson in how to win, but as a case study in human cognition, how a species that thought in stories rather than pure logic, that valued adaptability over optimization, could compete with beings far more intelligent. The course was simply titled, The Mia Jackson Paradox: Why Imperfect Players Win Perfect Games. And in a small office on Earth, Mia and Jackson received another challenge, this time from the entire Galactic Defense Network, asking for their help in redesigning combat doctrine. Jackson looked at Mia and grinned. Think they're ready for rock, paper, scissors? Not even close, she laughed.